Welcome to the best wildcard team video ahead of Gameweek 13, and I believe this is the best time to use the chip if you still have it in your back pocket. Of course, it's all team dependent, but let me know if there's any other changes you would make to this team. And there's going to be kind of a duo kind of comparison between a midfielder and an attacker compared to another midfielder and attacker. And I want to see your thoughts in terms of which one you prefer. So be sure to leave it in the comment section down below when you see it towards the end of this video. And let's try to get this to over 300 likes and let's push on towards 16,000 subscribers. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. We finally have a different goalkeeper, and that is Kepa Arrizabalaga, who has 18 points in his 3 starts, including a double-digit return against Aston Villa, where he was absolutely exceptional. He made some terrific saves, and I would go for him. I know some people would be tempted to have 2 rotating goalkeepers and maybe go for someone like Gaeta to rotate with Kepa. I think that isn't necessary. Just go for Kepa and go for Ward, and you invest a minimal amount of money in that position. And I think Kepa will go up to 4.5 million before the deadline, and he's actually going to be a really good player to get, especially when we go into the World Cup and going into Gameweek 17 in December. I think Kepa could be a fantastic and popular option in terms of our new teams when we get unlimited transfers. Ward is just there to sit on your bench, but Leicester have kept clean sheets in the last 2 home games, and I'm not counting Gameweek 12 because the game hasn't happened yet at the time of this recording. But Ward is a decent 4 million goalkeeper. That's really all there is to it, and you would start Kepa pretty much every single game week. Be sure to check out my team selection video where I'm looking to build a similar defense and also overall squad to what you see in this best wildcard team. Joao Cancelo speaks for himself. I don't really want to go into him too much, but for me, he's going to score the most points of any defender, and he is worth the extra millions over the others, and I wouldn't go from Cancelo to Robertson or Trent at this moment in time. Trippier is probably the second best defender in the game as well, and he's just offering such consistency. Even with some fluky returns, so to speak, he still gets them nonetheless, and he is just a must-have at the moment. And Anderson is there for the fixtures, and he also rotates pretty well with the other defenders around a similar price like Ben White and Joe Gomez, who is a short-term punt, and Matip could be back in early November, but of course we don't get many games anyway in November before the World Cup. So I think Joe Gomez is kind of safer now, and he could be a good punt up until Gameweek 16-17, where of course we do break off for the World Cup. And then Ben White covering the Arsenal defence, who tend to actually get the clean sheets away from home. It's really at the Emirates where they've struggled to really get that, but I still think with the fixtures coming up for Arsenal, the likes of Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, and maybe someone like Tomiyasu could offer great value. But there could be rotation with Tomiyasu and Tierney, and also if Zinchenko returns, that will also complicate things on the left-hand side. But Ben White is playing as the right back. That is undisputed. You could almost call it impossible to drop Ben White in his current form. He has been exceptional for Arsenal all season, probably their best defender alongside Saliba. I would go for him at only 4.5 million. I think that's an absolute bargain. I do understand the temptation to go for 5 midfielders and then possibly go for 3 forwards, but you would have huge benching headaches in most weeks, and it's already kind of bad enough when you bench Andreas and see him get 5 to 8 points as well sometimes. I would go for him if you're looking for a budget midfielder, and I would just keep it at that. Mason Mount is looking in terrific form under Graham Potter. He's the only Chelsea player at this point of the recording to have started every single game for Chelsea under the new manager. Phil Foden and Saka have been 2 of the most informed midfielders in the league. I would go for both of them without hesitation, and despite me preferring De Bruyne overall, despite the kind of differences in price and stuff, I think he'll score the most points of any midfielder. I think it's worth it in terms of value and what you can do in other areas of your team to have a really balanced squad. Martinelli is the best option at that price and below, period. The likes of Trossard and Rashford aren't too far off, you could say, but I still think Martinelli has been more consistent over the course of the season, and he also has some great fixtures up until Gameweek 16. So this kind of midfield speaks for itself. The big omission, you could say, is Salah, and you could go to him, and I'm going to show you in FPL.team a different duo, like I said, a midfielder and a striker, and it really comes down to Mason Mount, where he would be replaced by Salah. The rest would stay the same, but you can still go for a midfield 5. That's completely fine. And in terms of midfielders around 6 million and below, Eze is looking like the best one, although you do have Almiron and a few others like Xhaka and Billing, who are also pretty good actually. But I think Eze looks like the best option at this moment in time, and he probably looks like much better value than Zaha even, especially with the fixtures coming up for Palace, and they have been doing pretty well anyway, at least Eze has. Zaha maybe not so much, and of course he is still a good option on the wild card, but I think Eze would be the pick from those 2. Let me know your thoughts in terms of this midfield and what you would change overall, but let's now go into the forward line and also to the big conundrum at the end of this video. I have gone for 2 premium strikers here with Harry Kane and Haaland alongside Mitrovic, and it's really close actually between him and Tony, but I ended up going for Mitrovic because he's not one yellow card away from suspension like Tony, and that's always going to be a huge risk, and it could be a transfer waiting to happen. So to avoid that risk, I have gone for Mitrovic, although over the next 3 game weeks, you would argue Brentford have the better fixtures. Harry Kane has been so consistent, only 1 blank all season, which is when I had him, but he has been absolutely terrific. He's on penalties, of course, and Spurs have gotten quite a few of them recently, and in terms of the way they attack Heung-min Son and Harry Kane, they're able to get these penalties because of the amount of touches they have in the opposition's box, and they're able to draw these kind of uncomfortable situations for the defenders and even goalkeepers on certain occasions. So Harry Kane speaks for himself, and he's probably the second best premium in the game, unless Salah starts to show the form of last season, as he has slowly but surely been doing over the last week, but still early days. And Haaland speaks for himself. Let's not even talk about him any longer. Now let's go into FPL.team and show you the different duo I had in mind compared to Mason Mount and Harry Kane. In the comments, be sure to give your opinions. Do you prefer Salah and Ivan Toney or Mason Mount and Harry Kane? Be sure to let me know. I would probably favour Mason Mount and Harry Kane, and that's why I have showed it in the original team, and that one would cost around 101.3 million for me. And when you look at this one, it would be a bit different and a bit more expensive. It would be 102.3 million. So let me know which of these 2 teams you prefer. It's really down to that duo. The rest of it would stay the same, and there are a few kind of problems potentially with this team, like Joe Gomez. You know, once Matip and Konate are back, is he actually going to start the games despite some good performances recently? You know, that's something to think about. And maybe to kind of play a bit safer, you could go for Eric Dyer or someone else of that ilk. Maybe you could go for Kilman as well, despite Wolves being very inconsistent so far this season. But in terms of how I would start this, and the same would go, by the way, for Harry Kane and Mason Mount in Salah and Ivan Toney's place, so don't worry too much about that. Kepa would be in goal, with Ben White, Cancelo and Joe Gomez completing the back line, Martinelli, Saka, Foden and either Salah or Mason Mount, and then Haaland, Mitrovic and either Tony or Harry Kane. And if Kane was in this team, he would be the vice captain, and obviously with this duo it would be Salah as the vice, Haaland would be the captain. But you also have other options like Saka, Foden and Cancelo. I wouldn't rule them out as captaincy options, but I think most of us will be going for Haaland, and let's just keep it very, very simple. If there are any players that I haven't mentioned in this video that you think deserve a lot more credit, then be sure to also let me know down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's get this video to over 300 likes, and let's also push on towards 16,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and also become a patron or a channel member. The links are in the description below. The same goes for the Discord server and the FPL League. All of that is there. I wish you all the best luck for Gameweek 13, and for those of you wildcarding, of course, hopefully it turns out really well for you, and I'll see you next time.